There are noises, and then there is the noise, the kind that bypasses your ears and goes straight for your soul. It's a deep, primeval howl that makes the air tremble and your bones vibrate. This is not the polite hum of a jetliner. This is the sound of the Avro Vulcan. When you heard it, you felt it, a physical presence, a warning that something immense was happening. Then you saw it, a colossal white triangle in the sky looking more like a visitor from another world than an aircraft. It seemed too big, too alien, yet it moved with a grace that defied its size and the roar it produced. The Vulcan could climb almost vertically, bank like a fighter, and stop traffic with its audacity. More than just an aeroplane, it was a statement. Britain, battered but unbowed, could still build something extraordinary. Born in the shadow of war, the Vulcan was designed for one purpose: to carry a nuclear bomb to the heart of the Soviet Union if the unthinkable happened. It was the ultimate deterrent, a guardian angel with a devastating sting. Decades after retirement, the Vulcan remains a symbol of British ingenuity and power. For those who saw it fly, the memory is unforgettable. A machine that inspired awe, respect, and a little fear. The Vulcan's story is one of power, ingenuity, and peace through strength. To understand why Britain built a jet bomber that looked like a spaceship, you have to go back to the late 1940s. The world had just survived one war, but a new, colder conflict was brewing: the Cold War. Britain, battered and nearly bankrupt, faced a new threat. The Soviets had the bomb. Our old bombers were obsolete in this new age of jets and nuclear weapons. Britain needed a deterrent, something so powerful it would make the Kremlin think twice. The government challenged the aviation industry: build a bomber that could fly higher and faster than any enemy fighter, deep into hostile territory, carrying a nuclear weapon. This was about survival, a technological leap to keep Britain at the top table of military powers. Thus began the V-bomber program. Vickers, Handley Page, and Avro each designed their own super bomber. The result: the Valiant, the Victor, and the most radical of all, the Vulcan. The pressure was immense. The fate of the nation rested on the shoulders of these designers and engineers. The Cold War was on, and Britain was about to build its monster. The Vulcan would become the most iconic of them all. It was a gamble, but one Britain had to take. The stakes were nothing less than national survival. When Avro got the brief for a new bomber, they didn't just tweak old designs, they reinvented them. The requirements were extreme. Near the speed of sound, 50,000 feet carrying a 10,000-pound bomb. Conventional designs wouldn't work. They needed something revolutionary. The answer: the Delta Wing, a giant, triangular wing offering strength, internal volume, and high-speed efficiency. Avro, led by Stuart Davies, bet everything on this radical idea. They built scale prototypes, the Avro 707S, to test the concept. These baby Vulcans revealed the Delta's quirks and nimble handling. While others played it safe, Avro stuck with the pure Delta, a massive gamble. If it failed, the project would collapse, but the team believed in their vision. They were building the future, one triangle at a time. The Vulcan was born from the minds of brilliant, dedicated engineers at Avro. Roy Chadwick, the legendary designer behind the Lancaster, was the project's spiritual father, but his tragic death in 1947 left a void. Stuart Davies and his team took up the challenge, working in chilly drawing offices with pencils, paper, and slide rules. They filled chalkboards with complex equations, turning theory into thousands of precise blueprints. The pressure was immense, not just from the government but from the memory of Chadwick. Every component, from giant elevons to tiny rivets, had to be designed and perfected. This was a colossal jigsaw puzzle with no picture on the box. The Vulcan's thunderous roar echoed the quiet dedication of its creators. Their work was a tribute to Chadwick's legacy, a mission, not just a job. They faced setbacks and tragedies, but never gave up. The Vulcan was Britain's shield, built by real people with passion and genius. Failure was not an option. Building the Vulcan was one thing. Proving it could fly was another. On August 30th, 1952, the prototype, VX-770, took to the skies for the first time. Test pilot Rolly Falk, nerves of steel, was at the controls. The Delta Wing worked, the Vulcan lifted off cleanly, climbing majestically. Falk, ever the showman, performed steep banks and turns, showing the Vulcan's surprising agility. The crowd below, including the designers, could finally breathe. But the test program was dangerous. Tragedy struck with fatal crashes and hard lessons. Each incident led to improvements in safety and performance. Test pilots pushed the Vulcan to its limits, taming the beast and proving it could meet the RAF's demands. They tested engine failures, stalls, and high-speed integrity. The Vulcan flew higher and faster than any bomber before. The courage and skill of these pilots were as vital as the designer's genius. They turned a radical design into a proven weapon system. The Vulcan was ready for war, if war ever came. What was it like inside this marvel of engineering? The Vulcan was powered by 4 Olympus turbojet engines, buried in the delta wing, giving it its iconic howl and staggering performance. On takeoff, it could climb like a fighter, leaving onlookers breathless. Up front, the pilot and co-pilot sat in a pressurized cockpit with ejection seats and a panoramic view. In the back, the navigator, radar operator, and electronics officer worked in a dark, windowless coal hole. No ejection seats, just hope. Vulcan crews lived on a knife edge, always ready for a quick reaction alert. At any moment, they could be scrambled for a one-way mission they might not return from. The heart of the Vulcan was its bomb bay, designed for Britain's first nuclear bombs and later, the Blue Steel missile. The Vulcan was a delivery system for Armageddon. Crews trained relentlessly, practicing navigation and mock bombing runs, preparing for a mission they hoped would never come. It was a life of constant readiness and silent tension. The Vulcan's crew were the human element behind the machine's power. For most of its career, the Vulcan was a silent guardian. Its power lay in deterrence. It never dropped a nuclear bomb in anger, but for 2 decades it helped keep the peace. The howl of its engines was a warning to any would-be aggressor. As technology evolved, the Vulcan's mission changed. High-altitude bombing became too dangerous. The Vulcan adapted, flying low and fast, hugging the terrain to avoid radar. Just as its story seemed over, the Vulcan was called for one last mission, the Falklands War. In Operation Black Buck, Vulcans flew the longest bombing raids in history, striking Port Stanley's runway. The psychological impact was enormous. Britain could strike anywhere. The Vulcan, designed as a nuclear peacekeeper, fired its only shots in anger at the end of its life. It proved its versatility and the skill of its crews. The final roar of the Vulcan cemented its legendary status. It was a machine that inspired awe to the very end. The Vulcan's legacy endures, a symbol of power, ingenuity, and peace through strength.